I'm standing at the entrance of the Grand Rose Ballroom in Charleston, South Carolina, holding a gift I wrapped myself, wearing the dress I bought specifically for this day, and a security guard is telling me I can't come in. Behind him, through the glass doors, I can see white tablecloths, centerpieces I helped choose, and guests I've known for years. My daughter-in-law, Rebecca, is standing just inside, her white dress catching the light, and she's looking directly at me with an expression I've never seen before. Cold, determined, almost satisfied. She doesn't move. She doesn't pretend this is a mistake. She just turns to the coordinator and says something I can hear through the door. She's not on the list. She doesn't belong here. I feel my hands go numb. The gift slips a little in my grip. People are starting to notice. A woman I recognize from Rebecca's mother's church group glances over, then quickly looks away. The security guard shifts uncomfortably. He's young, maybe 25, and he clearly doesn't want to be part of this, but he has his orders. "Ma'am," he says quietly, "I'm sorry, but if you're not on the approved guest list, I can't let you through." Before I can respond, my son Michael appears in the doorway. He's in his tuxedo, looking confused, scanning the crowd until his eyes land on me. His face changes instantly. Shock, then understanding, then something darker. He walks toward me, and I see Rebecca reach for his arm, but he pulls away. When he reaches me, he doesn't say anything at first. He just looks at my face, at the security guard, at the closed doors behind him. Then he turns and walks back into the ballroom without a word. I stand there, frozen. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should leave, if I should wait, if I should demand to speak to someone. The security guard is still there, watching me with something like pity in his eyes. And then, 15 minutes later, the music stops. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to hear from you. What would you have done in that moment? Would you have walked away, demanded entry, called your son? And where are you listening from right now? Leave a comment. I read every single one, and I need to know I'm not alone in this. My name is Margaret Ellen Hartley. I'm 58 years old, and I've lived in the Appalachian foothills outside Asheville, North Carolina, my entire life. I'm telling you this not because it matters where I'm from, but because it matters to them, to Rebecca and her family, who've spent the last 2 years making it very clear that my background, my accent, my home, and everything I represent is an embarrassment. I'm not a wealthy woman by Charleston standards, but I'm comfortable. I own a 60-acre farm that's been in my family for 4 generations. I run a small business selling organic honey, preserves, and handmade crafts at farmers markets throughout western North Carolina. I've raised 2 sons on my own after my husband died in a logging accident when the boys were still in elementary school. I put both of them through college without loans, without help, and without ever making them feel like they owed me anything. I say this not to brag, but because what happened at that wedding, what's been happening for 2 years, isn't just about me being excluded from a party. It's about someone deciding that my life, my work, and my entire existence aren't good enough to be associated with their vision of success. Michael is my younger son. He's 32, a civil engineer, and he met Rebecca 3 years ago at a conference in Charlotte. She's from Old Charleston money. Her father owns a commercial real estate firm. Her mother sits on the boards of 6 charities, and their family name is on buildings downtown. From the first time I met her, I could tell she was measuring me. Not in a curious way, but in a calculating one. She asked about my house. I told her it was a farmhouse built in 1902 with a wraparound porch and a root cellar. She asked what I did for a living. I told her about the honey business, the farmers markets, the small online shop I'd built. She smiled politely, but her eyes were already somewhere else. That first visit, she didn't stay long. She claimed she had allergies, though we were in the middle of winter and nothing was blooming. Michael seemed embarrassed, though he tried to cover it. When they left, I heard her say something to him in the driveway. I couldn't make out the words, but I heard the tone, sharp, dismissive. Over the next year, the visits became shorter and less frequent. Michael would come alone sometimes, staying for a weekend to help me with repairs or just to talk. But when Rebecca came, it was always tense. She wouldn't eat my cooking. She'd sit on the porch with her phone, scrolling, barely acknowledging me. She once referred to my home as rustic in a way that made it sound like an insult. Then came the engagement. Michael called me first, excited, talking fast. He said they were getting married in Charleston, that Rebecca's family was hosting, and that it was going to be a big event. He asked if I was okay with that. I told him, of course, I wanted him to be happy. But then the planning started, and I realized I wasn't part of it. Rebecca's mother, Diane, took over everything. The venue, the caterer, the florist, the photographer, every decision was made without me. When I offered to help, I was told everything was already handled. When I asked about the guest list, I was told it was still being finalized. When I suggested a few family friends from Asheville, I was told the venue had limited capacity. Michael assured me it was just wedding stress. He said Rebecca's mother was particular, that she wanted everything perfect, and that I shouldn't take it personally. I tried to believe him. I tried to stay positive. Then, about 6 weeks before the wedding, Rebecca called me. It was the first time she'd called me directly in over a year. She was pleasant, almost warm, and she said she wanted to talk about my role in the wedding. I felt hopeful. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe she was reaching out. She asked if I'd be willing to contribute financially. She said her parents were covering most of the costs, but there were a few areas where they could use help. She mentioned the rehearsal dinner, the flowers, and the bar service. She gave me a number, $45,000. I was stunned, not because of the amount. I could afford it, though it would mean dipping into savings I'd been setting aside for retirement, but because of the way she asked. There was no warmth, no acknowledgement that this was a huge ask, just a transaction. I asked Michael about it later. He seemed surprised, said he didn't know she was going to ask me for that much, but he also said it would mean a lot to Rebecca if I helped. He said it would show that I supported them, that I was part of the family. So I agreed. I wired the money the next week. After that, I assumed I'd be more involved. I thought maybe I'd be included in planning meetings or at least kept in the loop. But nothing changed. If anything, Rebecca became colder. She stopped responding to my texts. When I asked Michael about dress codes or schedules, he seemed confused, like he didn't know either. 2 weeks before the wedding, I still hadn't received an invitation. I asked Michael about it, and he laughed it off, said it was probably lost in the mail, that I didn't need a formal invite, that of course I was coming. He texted me the date, time, and address. I bought a dress. I had my hair done. I wrapped a gift. And then I showed up, and I wasn't on the list. But let me back up. Because what I didn't know, what I didn't see until much later, was that this wasn't a miscommunication. This was planned. About a month before the wedding, Rebecca's mother had sent out a revised guest list to the venue coordinator. My name wasn't on it. In her notes, she'd written, "Mother of groom, not attending, family preference." Michael never saw that list. He assumed I was invited because he'd told me to come. Rebecca never corrected him because she wanted him to believe everything was fine. And I never questioned it because I trusted my son. The first real warning sign came 3 days before the wedding, but I didn't recognize it at the time. I was at the farmer's market in Hendersonville selling honey when a woman approached my booth. She introduced herself as Cynthia, a friend of Diane's from Charleston. She was polite, well-dressed, and she bought 3 jars of sourwood honey. As she was paying, she said something that stuck with me. "Diane mentioned you make beautiful preserves," she said. "She also mentioned you probably wouldn't make it to the wedding. I hope everything's all right." I smiled and told her I'd be there. She looked confused for a moment, then recovered and said something vague about how lovely that would be. But the look on her face stayed with me. It wasn't confusion. It was surprise. That night I called Michael. I asked him directly, "Am I invited to your wedding?" He laughed. "Mom, of course you are. Why would you even ask that?" "Because someone today acted like I wasn't coming." He sighed. "That's just Rebecca's mom's friends being weird. Don't worry about it. I'll see you Saturday." I wanted to believe him. I did believe him. But something felt wrong. The second warning came the night before the wedding. I was staying at a small bed and breakfast in Charleston, about 20 minutes from the venue. Michael had offered to put me up at the hotel where most of the wedding party was staying, but Rebecca had said there were no rooms left, so I booked my own place. That evening, I decided to drive by the venue, just to see it, to feel a little more prepared. The Grand Rose Ballroom is a historic building near the waterfront, all white columns and arched windows. It was beautiful, glowing in the evening light. As I pulled into the parking lot, I saw Diane standing near the entrance with the wedding coordinator. They were looking at a tablet, going over something. I rolled down my window, thinking I'd say hello, maybe offer to help with any last-minute details. But before I could call out, I heard Diane say, "And Margaret Hartley is not on the list. If she shows up, turn her away." Rebecca was very clear about this. The coordinator looked uncomfortable. "But isn't she the groom's mother?" "She is," Diane said. "But this is Rebecca's day, and Rebecca doesn't want her here. It's a family decision. If there's any confusion, call security." I sat there in my car, unable to move, unable to breathe. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I watched them finish their conversation, watched Diane walk back to her car, watched the coordinator go inside. Then I drove back to the bed and breakfast and sat on the edge of the bed for 3 hours, staring at the wall. I didn't call Michael. I didn't know what to say. I kept thinking maybe I'd misheard, maybe there was an explanation. But deep down, I knew. I knew this was deliberate. I thought about not going. I thought about packing up and driving home, sending Michael a text, disappearing quietly. But then I thought about the $45,000 I'd sent. I thought about the 2 years of subtle insults, the dismissals, the coldness. I thought about how hard I'd worked to raise my son, to give him opportunities, to teach him to stand up for what's right. And I decided I wasn't going to make this easy for them. So the next morning I got dressed. I did my makeup. I drove to the Grand Rose Ballroom. I walked up to the entrance with my head high, holding my gift, and I waited to see what would happen. And that's when the security guard stopped me. When Michael came out and saw me standing there, his face went white. He looked at the security guard, at me, at the closed doors behind him. He didn't say a word. He just turned and walked back inside. For 15 minutes I stood there. I could hear music playing, voices laughing, glasses clinking. I could see shadows moving behind the frosted glass. I felt humiliated, exposed, and completely powerless. And then the music stopped. I heard Michael's voice, amplified by a microphone. He wasn't yelling, but his tone was sharp, commanding. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" The room went quiet. "I need to address something before we go any further," he said. "My mother is standing outside this building right now because she was told she's not on the guest list. I was told she was invited. Clearly, someone lied to one of us." I heard murmurs, shuffling. Someone said, "Michael, not now." "Yes, now," he interrupted, "because my mother paid for a significant portion of this wedding. She wired $45,000 6 weeks ago to cover costs that were specifically requested by my fiancé. And now, she's being turned away at the door like she's a stranger." There was a long silence. Then I heard Rebecca's voice, defensive and shrill. "Michael, this isn't the time." "Then when is the time, Rebecca?" he said. "When were you planning to tell me you didn't want my mother here? When were you planning to tell me you took her money and then blocked her from attending?" I could hear Diane trying to interject, but Michael cut her off. "I asked my mother to be here," he said. "I told her to come. If she's not welcome, then neither am I." The doors opened. Michael walked out, still in his tuxedo, his face flushed but his jaw set. He looked at me, then at the security guard. "Let her in," he said. The security guard glanced back toward the ballroom, uncertain. Diane appeared in the doorway, her face tight with anger. "Michael, you're being unreasonable. Let her in," Michael repeated, louder this time. Rebecca appeared next to her mother, her eyes red, her hands shaking. "Michael, please, can we just talk about this inside?" "No," he said. "We're done talking. Either my mother comes in, or I leave. Right now." Diane tried to smile, to smooth things over. "Michael, sweetheart, this is just a misunderstanding." "It's not a misunderstanding," he said. "You told the venue coordinator 3 days ago that my mother wasn't attending. You wrote it down. You planned this." Rebecca's face crumpled. "I just wanted everything to be perfect." "Perfect for who?" Michael asked. "Because it sure as hell wasn't perfect for me." He turned to me. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." I nodded. I didn't trust myself to speak. He looked back at Rebecca. "I'm leaving. If you want to continue this wedding without me, that's your choice. But I'm not staying in a place where my mother isn't welcome." And then he walked past me, past the security guard, and out into the parking lot. I stood there, frozen, as chaos erupted behind me. Diane was calling after him. Rebecca was crying. Guests were starting to come outside, whispering, filming on their phones. The coordinator was trying to manage the situation, but it was already out of control. I followed Michael to his car. He was leaning against the driver's side door, breathing hard, his tie loosened. "Michael," I said quietly, "you didn't have to do that." He looked at me, his eyes wet. "Yes, I did. This is your wedding day." "It was," he said, "but it's not a wedding if the people I love aren't there." We stood there in the parking lot for a long time, not saying much, while the wedding that never was fell apart behind us. But this story doesn't end there. Because what I didn't tell you, what I didn't tell Michael, was that I'd been preparing for this. 2 weeks before the wedding, after the conversation with Cynthia at the farmer's market, I'd started to feel uneasy. So I did something I'd never done before. I hired a lawyer. His name was Ben Garrett, and he specialized in family law and contract disputes. I told him about the $45,000, about the lack of communication, about the growing sense that something wasn't right. He asked me to send him every email, every text, every receipt related to the wedding. 3 days later, he called me back. "Margaret," he said, "you don't have a contract for this money. It was a gift, technically. But if you were promised involvement in the wedding, if you were told this money was for specific services that you'd be part of, then we might have grounds to argue misrepresentation." I asked him what that meant. "It means," he said, "that if they take your money and then exclude you from the event you funded, that's not just rude, it's potentially actionable." I asked him to prepare a letter, not a lawsuit, just a letter, requesting a full accounting of how the $45,000 was spent, and requesting a refund for any portion that was used for an event I was explicitly excluded from. He drafted it, but I didn't send it. I wanted to wait. I wanted to see what would happen. And now, standing in the parking lot with Michael, I pulled out my phone and sent the letter. Within 2 hours, Ben had forwarded it to Diane's personal email, Rebecca's email, and the venue coordinator. The subject line read, "Request for accounting and refund. Hartley contribution to canceled wedding." I didn't tell Michael. I didn't tell anyone. I just sent it and waited. The fallout was immediate. Diane called me that evening, furious. "You can't do this," she said. "You gave that money willingly." "I gave it believing I'd be part of the wedding," I said calmly. "I was explicitly excluded. I want an accounting, and I want a refund for any funds that went toward an event I wasn't allowed to attend." "This is extortion." "No," I interrupted. "This is a reasonable request. If you used my money for a private event that I wasn't invited to, then you misrepresented the purpose of the funds. My lawyer is prepared to pursue this further if necessary." She hung up. Rebecca called next, sobbing. "Margaret, please, this is all a huge mistake." "Then explain it to me," I said. "Explain why your mother told the venue coordinator I wasn't attending. Explain why I was stopped at the door. Explain why you took my money and then tried to humiliate me." She couldn't. She just cried and said she was sorry over and over until I hung up. The next day, I received an email from Diane's lawyer. It was formal, cold, and it included a breakdown of wedding expenses. Of the $45,000 I'd contributed, $32,000 had been spent on the rehearsal dinner and floral arrangements, both of which I'd been excluded from. The remaining $13,000 had gone toward the bar service, which technically I could have attended if I'd been allowed in. Ben advised me to request a refund of $32,000. I agreed. Within a week, I received a check. No apology, no explanation. Just a check and a terse note from Diane's lawyer stating that this resolved all financial obligations. I deposited the check. And then I did something I'd been thinking about for a long time. I called my older son, David. David lives in Raleigh. He's a high school teacher, married with 2 kids. He's steady, thoughtful, and he's always been protective of me. I told him everything: the exclusion, the money, the lawyer, the refund. He was furious. "Mom," he said, "why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I wanted to handle it myself," I said. "But I need you to know what happened, because Michael's going through something right now, and he's going to need support." David flew down that weekend. He met with Michael, and the 2 of them talked for hours. I don't know everything they said, but I know that David helped Michael see what I'd been seeing for 2 years, that Rebecca and her family didn't respect him, didn't respect me, and didn't respect the life we'd built. A month later, Michael called off the engagement. He didn't do it dramatically. He didn't make a public statement. He just told Rebecca that he couldn't marry someone who would treat his mother the way she'd treated me. He returned the ring, moved out of their shared apartment in Charlotte, and came home to Asheville for a while. He stayed with me for 3 months. We didn't talk about the wedding much. Mostly, we just worked on the farm together, fixing fences, harvesting honey, talking about life. He seemed lighter, freer, like a weight had been lifted. One evening, we were sitting on the porch, watching the sun set over the mountains, and he said, "Mom, I'm sorry." "For what?" I asked. "For not seeing it sooner. For letting them make you feel like you weren't good enough." I reached over and took his hand. "You saw it when it mattered," I said. "That's all I needed." He nodded, and we sat there in silence, listening to the crickets and the wind in the trees. Rebecca tried to reach out a few times after that. She sent emails, texts, even a handwritten letter. She said she'd made a mistake, that she'd been under pressure from her mother, that she wanted to make things right. Michael didn't respond. He'd made his decision, and he was at peace with it. Diane, on the other hand, never apologized. In fact, she did the opposite. About 6 months after the wedding that never was, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd been telling people I was vindictive and money-hungry, that I'd ruined my son's happiness because I couldn't let go of old grudges. I didn't respond to those rumors. I didn't need to. The people who mattered knew the truth. But I did do one thing. I wrote a letter, not to Diane or Rebecca, but to the women in my community. I posted it on the bulletin board at the farmer's market, at the community center, and on a few local Facebook groups. It wasn't about revenge. It was about warning others. The letter read, "To the mothers, grandmothers, and women who've worked hard to build something for their families. I want to share something I learned recently. When someone asks you for money, especially family, make sure you understand what you're paying for and make sure your contribution is valued. Don't let anyone make you feel like your background, your work, or your life is something to be ashamed of. And if you're ever excluded from something you helped create, don't be afraid to ask questions. You deserve respect, you deserve honesty, and you deserve to be treated like you matter." I signed it with my name, my phone number, and my farm's address. Within a week, I received dozens of messages from women who'd been through similar situations. Daughters-in-law who'd excluded them, families who'd taken their money and then pushed them aside, partners who'd made them feel small. I started a small support group. We meet once a month at the community center and we talk about boundaries, self-worth, and how to protect ourselves without becoming bitter. It's grown into something I never expected. A space where women my age can share their stories and remind each other that we're not alone. Michael is doing well now. He's still in Asheville, working for a local engineering firm. He's dating someone new, a teacher from Hendersonville who grew up on a farm not too far from mine. She's kind, grounded, and she loves sitting on the porch with me, talking about gardening and canning and the simple things that make life good. The first time she came over, she brought me a jar of her own blackberry jam. She said, "I heard you make the best honey in the county, so I wanted to bring something to trade." I knew right then that she was different. As for me, I'm still here on the farm. I still sell honey at the markets. I still sit on the porch in the evenings, watching the mountains turn purple in the fading light. But I'm different now. I'm more cautious, but also more confident. I know my worth. I know what I'll tolerate and what I won't. And I know that walking away from people who don't value you isn't giving up. It's protecting yourself. If you're reading this, and you've ever been made to feel like you're not enough, I want you to know something. You are enough. Your life, your work, your voice, they matter. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. And if someone tries to take from you without giving respect in return, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Quietly, strategically, and with dignity. But stand up. Because at the end of the day, the only person who can protect your peace is you. Margaret Ellen Hartley, una mujer de 58 años del sur de los Apalaches en Carolina del Norte, llega al Grand Rose Ballroom en Charleston, Carolina del Sur, lista para celebrar la boda de su hijo menor, Michael. Viste el traje que compró especialmente para la ocasión. Lleva un regalo envuelto con sus propias manos y siente la emoción natural de cualquier madre en el día de la boda de su hijo. Pero cuando llega a la entrada, un guardia de seguridad la detiene. A través de las puertas de cristal, puede ver a su nuera, Rebecca, de pie en su vestido blanco, mirándola directamente con una expresión fría y calculada. Rebecca no pretende que esto sea un error. Le dice al coordinador con total claridad: «Ella no está en la lista, no pertenece aquí». Margaret siente que sus manos se entumecen. La gente comienza a mirarla. El guardia, incómodo, le explica que sin estar en la lista de invitados aprobada, no puede permitirle entrar. En ese momento aparece Michael, confundido, buscándola entre la multitud. Cuando la ve de pie afuera, bloqueada, su rostro cambia instantáneamente. Sorpresa, comprensión y luego algo más oscuro. Camina hacia ella. Rebecca intenta detenerlo, pero él se libera. Llega hasta su madre, la mira en silencio, luego mira al guardia y las puertas cerradas detrás de él. Sin decir una palabra, da media vuelta y regresa al salón. Margaret se queda paralizada durante 15 minutos, escuchando la música, las risas, los brindis. Se siente humillada, expuesta, impotente, y entonces la música se detiene abruptamente. La voz de Michael, amplificada por un micrófono, corta el silencio. «Necesito la atención de todos, por favor». En tono firme y controlado, Michael revela ante todos los invitados que su madre está afuera porque le dijeron que no estaba en la lista, cuando él personalmente le había confirmado su invitación. Pero lo más devastador es lo que dice a continuación. «Mi madre pagó $45,000 para cubrir parte significativa de esta boda. Dinero que fue solicitado específicamente por mi prometida. Y ahora la están echando como si fuera una desconocida». El salón cae en un silencio incómodo. Rebecca intenta justificarse. Su madre Diane intenta intervenir, pero Michael las detiene. Declara públicamente que si su madre no es bienvenida, entonces él tampoco se queda. Sale del salón, aún vestido de novio, y les dice al guardia y a su familia: o entra mi madre o me voy, ahora mismo. Rebecca, llorando, intenta convencerlo de que todo es un malentendido, pero Michael no cede. Finalmente, cumple su palabra. Abandona su propia boda y se va con Margaret al estacionamiento, dejando atrás el caos, los invitados confundidos y una novia desconsolada. Pero lo que nadie sabe, ni siquiera Michael, es que Margaret había estado preparándose para este momento desde hacía semanas. Margaret no es una mujer ingenua. Propietaria de una granja de 60 acres que ha estado en su familia durante 4 generaciones, dirige un exitoso negocio de miel orgánica y artesanías. Crió a sus 2 hijos sola después de que su esposo muriera en un accidente forestal. Les pagó la universidad sin préstamos, sin ayuda y sin hacerlos sentir que le debían nada. Pero desde que Michael comenzó a salir con Rebecca hace 3 años, Margaret ha sentido el desprecio silencioso de la familia de su nuera. Rebecca proviene de dinero antiguo de Charleston. Su padre posee una empresa inmobiliaria comercial. Su madre forma parte de juntas benéficas de élite y su apellido está grabado en edificios del centro. Desde el primer encuentro, Rebecca midió a Margaret con desdén apenas disimulado. Cuestionó su hogar rural, su negocio de miel, su acento, su forma de vida. Cada visita se volvió más tensa, más breve, más fría. Cuando llegó el compromiso, Margaret fue sistemáticamente excluida de todos los planes de la boda. La madre de Rebecca, Diane, controló cada decisión sin consultarla. Cuando Margaret ofreció ayuda, le dijeron que todo estaba manejado. Cuando sugirió invitar a amigos cercanos, le dijeron que el espacio era limitado. Luego, 6 semanas antes de la boda, Rebecca la llamó por primera vez en más de un año. Con tono amable pero transaccional, le pidió que contribuyera financieramente, $45,000 para cubrir la cena de ensayo, las flores y el servicio de bar. Margaret, aunque sorprendida por la magnitud de la solicitud y la frialdad con la que fue hecha, aceptó. Quería apoyar a su hijo. Quería demostrar que era parte de la familia. Transfirió el dinero a la semana siguiente. Después de eso, esperaba estar más involucrada. Pero nada cambió. Rebecca dejó de responder sus mensajes. 2 semanas antes de la boda, Margaret aún no había recibido una invitación formal. Michael le aseguró que era solo un descuido, que obviamente estaba invitada. Pero 3 días antes del evento, una amiga de Diane mencionó casualmente en el mercado de agricultores que Diane le había dicho que Margaret probablemente no asistiría a la boda. Esa noche, Margaret llamó a Michael para confirmarlo. Él le aseguró que estaba invitada, pero algo no encajaba. La noche anterior a la boda, Margaret pasó por el lugar del evento y, sin querer, escuchó a Diane diciéndole al coordinador: Margaret Hartley. No está en la lista. Si aparece, no la dejes entrar. Rebecca fue muy clara al respecto. Margaret se sintió golpeada, traicionada, pero no actuó impulsivamente. En lugar de confrontar o huir, tomó una decisión estratégica. Contrató a un abogado. Ben Garrett, especialista en derecho familiar y disputas contractuales, revisó todos los correos, mensajes y recibos relacionados con la boda. Aunque técnicamente el dinero fue un regalo, Ben argumentó que había bases para reclamar tergiversación. Margaret fue inducida a dar el dinero bajo la promesa implícita de participación en un evento del cual luego fue deliberadamente excluida. Ben preparó una carta formal solicitando un desglose completo de los gastos y un reembolso por cualquier fondo utilizado en un evento al que Margaret no fue permitida asistir. Margaret esperó. No envió la carta de inmediato. Quería ver qué pasaría. Y cuando Michael abandonó la boda en el estacionamiento, Margaret sacó su teléfono y envió la carta. En 2 horas, Ben la había enviado a Diane, Rebecca y al coordinador del lugar. El asunto decía: solicitud de contabilidad y reembolso, contribución Hartley a boda cancelada. La reacción fue inmediata y explosiva. Diane llamó furiosa, acusando a Margaret de extorsión. Rebecca llamó llorando, suplicando perdón. Al día siguiente, el abogado de Diane envió un desglose detallado. De los $45,000, 32,000 se habían gastado en la cena de ensayo y arreglos florales, eventos de los cuales Margaret fue explícitamente excluida. Ben aconsejó solicitar el reembolso de esos 32,000. Una semana después, Margaret recibió un cheque. Sin disculpas, sin explicaciones, solo un cheque y una nota legal fría declarando que esto resolvía todas las obligaciones financieras. Margaret depositó el cheque. Luego llamó a su hijo mayor, David, un maestro de secundaria en Raleigh, y le contó todo. David voló a Asheville ese fin de semana y habló con Michael durante horas. Un mes después, Michael rompió el compromiso. No de forma dramática, sino tranquila y definitiva. Le dijo a Rebecca que no podía casarse con alguien que tratara a su madre de esa manera. Devolvió el anillo, dejó el apartamento compartido en Charlotte y regresó a casa. Michael pasó 3 meses con Margaret en la granja, reparando cercas, cosechando miel, hablando de la vida. Poco a poco, recuperó su paz. Rebecca intentó contactarlo varias veces, enviando correos, mensajes, incluso una carta manuscrita pidiendo perdón. Michael no respondió. Había tomado su decisión. Mientras tanto, Diane difundió rumores de que Margaret era vengativa e interesada en el dinero, que había arruinado la felicidad de su hijo. Margaret no respondió a los chismes. En cambio, escribió una carta abierta a las mujeres de su comunidad, publicándola en tablones de anuncios y grupos de Facebook locales. No era sobre venganza, sino sobre advertencia y empoderamiento. La carta instaba a las madres, abuelas y mujeres trabajadoras a protegerse, a exigir respeto, a no permitir que nadie las hiciera sentir avergonzadas de sus vidas o sus logros. La respuesta fue abrumadora. Docenas de mujeres compartieron historias similares de exclusión, desprecio y abuso financiero por parte de familiares. Margaret comenzó un grupo de apoyo mensual en el centro comunitario, un espacio seguro donde mujeres de su edad podían hablar sobre límites, autoestima y dignidad. Hoy, Michael está bien. Vive en Asheville, trabaja para una firma de ingeniería local y sale con una maestra de Hendersonville que creció en una granja. La primera vez que ella visitó a Margaret, le trajo un tarro de mermelada de mora casera como gesto de intercambio. Margaret supo de inmediato que era diferente. Margaret sigue en su granja, vendiendo miel, sentada en el porche al atardecer, observando las montañas volverse púrpura. Pero ahora es diferente, más cautelosa, más segura, más consciente de su valor. Y sabe que alejarse de quienes no te valoran no es rendirse, es protegerte. Su mensaje final es claro. Si alguien alguna vez te hace sentir que no eres suficiente, recuerda que lo eres. Tu vida, tu trabajo, tu voz importan. Y si alguien intenta tomar de ti sin darte respeto a cambio, defiéndete. Tranquila, estratégicamente, con dignidad. Pero defiéndete, porque al final del día, la única persona que puede proteger tu paz eres tú.